Good evening, everyone. It is 7:30 now, so I think we can begin. This is a real property reuse committee meeting regularly scheduled. Today is Thursday, June 12th, 2025. Present at the beginning of the meeting are members of the committee, Councillor Oliver from Ward 1, Councillor Lucas from Ward 2, who's also the vice chair, Councillor Malachy from Ward 3, Councillor Getz from Ward 5, myself, Vicky Danberg, I am the chair from Ward 6. Councillor Laredo is unable to make it from Ward 7, and Councillor Lipoff from Ward 8. We are also joined, I see, by Councillor Block from Ward 4. Is there anyone else that I've missed? Any councillors? We are joined also by Laura Kreitzer, the Director of Housing and Community Development, by Barney Heath, who is the Director of Planning for the city, Senior City Solicitor Andrew Lee, and Committee Clerk and Acting City Clerk Cassidy Flynn. I think that's it. Cassidy, if I've missed anyone or anyone comes on that I don't announce, let me know. We are expecting the Joint Advisory Planning Group Chair and Vice Chair, Ken Krems and David Hedison, and any other members of the Joint Advisory Planning Group. Did I miss anyone? I don't think so. David Hedison, David is here. Good. And I assume that Ken will be joining us. David, is that, do you know if Ken is coming?
He has a conflict tonight, so I'm going to be representing, yes.
Fine. That's very good. Okay. So today we have one item scheduled for discussion. That is item number 3624, which is the reuse of a parcel of land on Grove and Hancock Streets. Director of Planning and Development submitting on November 3 of 2023 a letter stating that the 36,356 square foot city-owned parcel of land known as 169 Grove Street and 136 Hancock Street should be made available for sale or lease pursuant to the City of Newton Ordinance, Section 2-7. This item was last heard on January 16th of 2025, at which time we voted to give a 90-day extension to the JAPG as they felt that they needed more time to give the property a full vetting. So we will start off tonight with a brief intro by Mr. Heath. I will then, Attorney Lee, I believe, also has a short presentation. I will then turn it over to Vice Chair Hedison of the JAPG, which is the Joint Advisory Planning Group, for any of those of you who aren't familiar with the term, who will present the findings of the JAPG. I should also announce that a public hearing will be held on this item in September, which will give everyone a chance to digest the recommendations of the JAPG. It'll be on a Thursday in September, and we will poll the committee as to the best date. Anybody have any questions? Seeing none, let us proceed to Mr. Heath.
Good evening. Before I turn things over to Laura, who was the principal staff person along with Shaylin Ayanako for the JAPG, I'll just give a couple quick remarks. Just to bring the board back, the JAPG was formed in August of 2024 and met through April of 2025. They were ably led by Ken Krems and David Hedison, and had very active discussions. There are a number of folks that weren't on the committee that were zoomed in. I know Councillor Block was a frequent attendee, and I think Councilor Maliki as well, and probably other councilors as well at various times. We also devoted one of the meetings, at least one of the meetings, to public comment because there were a bunch of neighbors that were very interested in the process and contributed to the discussion. So I think Laura is going to present kind of the facts on the ground, if you will. And then David's going to add a commentary that will summarize the JAPG's findings, if you will. So Laura.
Thank you. If I can, am I okay to share with my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hold on. Okay, so to give a little background, the JAPG was created to look at the two parcels purchased by the city. That's Lot A and Lot B as shown in the map here on November 2021 using ARPA funds. The city council order at that time specified that the site be purchased for use as affordable housing and educational purposes. And one of the assumptions as the JAPG looked at this was that at least 10,000 square feet of the purchase site would be set aside for the Williams School. So that's roughly the land between the two buildings on Lot A and Lot B. The other three lots, Lot 1, 2, and 3, were purchased by a private developer and are being developed separately. And I also noted that this is the entire site is located in the local historic district, the Auburndale Local Historic District, and includes 3 existing buildings. The first one of those is the Howard House at 136 Hancock Street. I've circled it on the map over here. It's the one that's on the far west side of the site, and it's a circa 1926 building. The Hume House, which is located, it's attached to the Harding House, which is the next one we're looking at. It's circled here on the map. It's set a little bit back. It's 1926, 1927 building. And the Harding complex, which for some reason is not showing right now. Let me go back. This right here is the Harding complex, and that is built in the 1847, I believe. The JAPG process began in June 2024 with Reuse Committee's initial determination triggering the creation of the JAPG. The 9-member committee was established by August and held its first public meeting to discuss potential future ideas for the site. From August to January, the JAPG met regularly to review options for the site, meet with city staff and departments, and look at all the possibilities that were available. In January 2025, as Councilor Danberg mentioned, the JAPG came in to ask for a 90-day extension to discuss ideas with city departments and committees for future uses. In March, the JAPG reviewed those recommendations and progressed with the report, which was finished in April. And so tonight is our opportunity to present this final report to you. The first recommendation, there are 2 recommendations made in the JAPG final report. The first one is to keep the Harding complex, the building to the far east of the site, and add a modest addition to allow future housing, and demolish both the Hume House here and the Howard House on the western edge. The second option proposed is to keep the Harding and Hume houses for future housing use and demolish the Howard House. And in both of these options that are recommendation, they do not include the 10,000 square feet of land that's already been set aside for the Williams School for its future use. And it was proposed that any additional open space created by the demolition of buildings on the site was recommended for use of the Williams Elementary School in the future. Also, the JAPG wanted to say that a supportive affordable housing component or a congregate housing option for the remaining buildings on the site, but they did not make any specific recommendation as to what that might look like or how many units might be there. And David, I don't know, would you like to add anything?
Yes, I would, but I thought Councilor Denberg had stated that Andrew Lee wanted to present immediately, then I would speak.
Andrew, would you like to speak now, or would you like to wait until after Mr. Hedison is finished?
Madam Chair, I defer to you and Mr. Hedison. Just to be clear, I am only talking to process.
Fine. Why don't you go ahead, David, and we'll hear from Attorney Lee later.
Excellent. Thank you. Yes, Lara, I'd love to say a few words. I'd like just to thank the whole committee for a great job. We had a very active group of participants where we took into serious consideration the voices of the neighborhood, the desire to address the needs of the school, lively conversation regarding open space, historic preservation, and of course, affordable housing. Affordable housing is something I do in my my day life, as well as historic preservation with affordable housing. So this was something that was near and dear to my heart. We wanted to provide a balanced approach when looking at this site. And as many will say, these are beautiful buildings in a beautiful neighborhood. What a great opportunity for something. All of us as a committee recognized that whether it was going to be used for school, for affordable housing, for open space, there are no funds dedicated to the ongoing operations for any three of those opportunities. And there are no funds dedicated for the actual redevelopment or reuse for any of those three options. So having the conversation of what actually could be done fiscally or financially was really something we struggled with. Then it came down to, where could we find the resources to make these things happen? And it was clear that there was no strong, clear path forward as an independent project. There was a number of members of the JPG that wanted this balanced approach to provide an opportunity for the Williams School to be able to expand their playground or have other use for the school. And there was a desire for affordable housing. The information we received from the Newton Housing Partnership and the Newton Housing Authority and consultants indicated that the cost for redeveloping for affordable housing was somewhere in the range of just under $1 million per unit. One of the concerns that was raised is that because the size of the project on this site would not meet the number of 20 units, which would allow us to go into the funding round with the state, a lot of the funds would be coming from the local community or historic preservation, historic tax credits. A number of us had concerns over the costs associated with such a small scale project. And the idea was discussed lively that this could become part of maybe a larger project in the city of Newton. So where we could possibly imagine a larger project of 20 units, this being part of another site. That wasn't our purview, but we noted that this was a potential option. I'd like to say that unlike maybe other JAPGs that have met and come forward with a very clear path, these are all the options that we provided you, number one and number two, come with a lot of issues. We recognize the role of historic preservation and the value of these buildings to the community, and we don't have a guarantee that they'd be able to be taken down. A lack of funding for the different options is also a struggle. We present this report unanimously, and I'm sure some of the members will be happy to come back during the public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hedison. And also a huge thanks to all the members of the JPG, I think some of whom are here, for all the work that you've done. Thank you for the time that you've put in and getting this JPG report to the committee. Before we bring discussion into the committee, why don't we hear from City Solicitor, Senior Assistant City Solicitor Andrew Lee, because he's got some tips on progress for us. Go ahead, Andrew.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to share my screen now. So as I noted earlier, I'm speaking primarily to process, where we are in the reuse process currently and what the next steps are. So the Director of Housing did a great job kind of going through the steps we've already taken. So I'm going to gloss over most of this. I did want to note that we are exactly 1 year from the non-binding initial determination. I just thought it was interesting.
Mhm.
So where we are right now is this box circled in red. The Real Property Reuse Committee has to hold a public hearing. This is a requirement under Section 2-7 of our ordinances, where after the JEPG submits the report, the Reuse Committee has to hold a public hearing not less than 30 days and not more than 60 days from the date of submission. It's important to note for this Reuse Committee and potential actions tonight that any requirement that's under 2-7, including that time period by which a public hearing has to be held, can be waived by 2/3 vote of the City Council. After the public hearing is concluded, the next step is for the Real Property Reuse Committee to make their recommendation to the City Council. You might all remember that at the beginning of this process, when we're looking at that initial determination to make the property available for sale or lease, I made very clear that's non-binding. It's just a recommendation to move the process forward. This recommendation from the committee after the public hearing, that is the actual decision of the Reuse Committee. And they could recommend that the property be sold or leased. They could set the minimum sale price or the recommended amount and also specific use characteristics, or they could recommend that the city retain the property. The full City Council will have to vote on that recommendation. And if the determination is to make it available for sale or lease, that requires a 2/3 vote. And that's a resolution to the mayor, and then the mayor can act appropriately based on that recommendation. So tonight, the potential actions that the Reuse Committee can take is really to set the public hearing date. However, it's important to note, if the Reuse Committee wants to set that public hearing date beyond the 60 days from the date of the submission by the JPG, they need to vote to recommend that that requirement of the 60 days be waived, and then the City Council will vote on that recommendation from the Reuse Committee. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Attorney Lee. I noticed that we have been joined also by Councilor Gentile, who, from Ward 4, who's a member of the committee. We'll all have another bite at the public hearing in September. But for now, let's bring the discussion into the committee to hear what comments the committee may have. So go ahead. I will call on you in the order that I see your hand. Do we have any questions?
Yeah, Councilor Danberg, do you see my hand?
You know what? You're cut off. Yeah, I'm sorry. The top.
No, I'm just asking.
That's Maliki and Kreitzer are cut. Your hand is cut off. Sorry. Okay, 'cause you're at the top of my screen. Go ahead, Councilor Getz.
Okay, just a quick question to Andrew Lee. I'm a little concerned about like the timeline in terms of when are we tonight receiving the the JPEG report? What's the date? When does the clock start ticking, in terms of that window for the 30 to 60 days? Because we're going into the summer months, and I'm concerned that, we're not going to be able to do this without asking for the waiver.
We can ask for that waiver. If someone can make a motion tonight to ask for the waiver, and as long as we get a preponderance of the committee and we get a 2/3 vote from the City Council, we can get the waiver.
Great. But the question is, when did the clock start ticking in terms of, is it tonight that we've received the JPG report, or when?
Tonight the committee is receiving the report. Yes, the clock starts ticking tonight.
Okay. All right. So then so I would be of a mind to, sort of go into the fall just out of, I don't know, in terms of, because it's either 60 days from now would throw us into
August,
and that doesn't seem like an appropriate time to be having.
So we want the waiver. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that would be my first suggestion.
Thank you. Councilor Maliki.
Yeah, I'll be happy to make the motion just so we have it, that we waive the 60 days. I was curious about a few things. From I sort of expected more people to be here from maybe the JAPG. For the recommendations that were put forward, they're not exactly like any of the proposals or the scenarios that Weston and Sampson envisioned. And I noted in the Newton Housing Partnership memo that they really sort of were very critical of some of the Weston and Sampson calculations and size assumptions and math and so forth. So maybe that's not such a big issue. But David Hedison, I guess, was there a scenario, kind of a visualization of how option one would work in terms of parking and access? Because all along it was basically stated that access from Grove Street was not practical, so it was going to have to come in from Hancock, whatever the use was, for any cars and parking that would be involved.
If I can respond, if that's
Sure.
okay.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
So everything that you've raised is correct. We did have a very healthy discussion about the Weston and Sampson report. Their role was only to look at different affordable housing options that could potentially happen on the site, where our purview was to look at all options on the site. We did raise concerns about funding sources, density, and to try to, our option was to address a few things. Parking was a significant issue at that site. By option one, by taking down the two structures and adding an addition onto the oldest building, would allow for one structure, one system, potentially, well, addressing accessibility issues, as an addition off the back could provide an elevator. And we could also look at potential use for congregate housing. They could be individuals aging out of different systems, or individuals that need some assistance living in the home. It could be single room occupancy. It could be one bedrooms, SROs. So we didn't talk about number of units. And under the scenario where it was considered congregate housing, the residents may not actually need a vehicle, and it would just be for staff that would be coming into the site. So under that scenario that the committee voted as number one, took into consideration a lot of the issues regarding density, parking, and flexibility for the space to be used by the school, whether it was in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, or 30 years. We didn't want to encumber the whole site or a lot of that site for parking or for other structures.
Okay.
And I'm not going to be able to answer all to put 9 months worth of meetings into this comment. I'd like you to hear from others too.
Yeah, and I watched or attended so many of the meetings, and I know how challenging the assignment was. So both option one and option two are predicated on getting permission from the local historic district to tear down one or two buildings, but at various meeting minutes and so forth, they consistently stated that they were very unlikely to approve demolition, and they wouldn't approve it without a very compelling reason. Is there any sense of what would be compelling enough? And is it really feasible to expect demolition to be approved?
One of, as vice chair of the JPEG, not as an individual, what I heard was Lara had made an example, or provided an example of the private developer that purchased the remaining part of the site received permission to take down one of the buildings that was determined to not be of historic significance. But yet they were going to be making significant historic improvements on the other buildings. Potentially, if the oldest structure on site was going to be preserved to a certain level, that was going to make historic very happy and the neighbors happy. There could be a scenario where they would, I mean, they could, I'm not saying, I'm not speaking for them, but an argument could be made that if one is going to be preserved very well, that would be something we could ask. The other option is, do we want to see 3 homes languish at that site and fall into additional, disrepair over time?
And,
Because
yeah.
as Newton Housing Partnership had stated, this site as currently structured for a private developer to come in and invest that sum of money into that site will be very difficult.
Okay, one more question for now, and then I want to hear other people's questions too anyway. Is it fair to say that whatever we keep as buildings and whatever the use, it's going to fall on the city of Newton to keep the building in good condition, whether it's congregate housing or 3 or 4 units or school use or community use? It's kind of our responsibility now, having bought them, to keep them up. Is that correct?
The only comment I will share is we did ask from with the consultants that we wanted to see a model that would provide adequate income for whether it was city-owned, Newton Housing Authority, nonprofit partner, that there would be adequate income from any proposal that would show that it could be self-supporting, provide for maintenance, and that is something we were not able to see.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to go first to Mr. Heath, then Attorney Lee, then Getz, then Block. Go ahead, Mr. Heath.
Just quickly here, the JAPG members actually went to the Auburndale Historic District Commission to pose questions to them. I know one of the commissioners from the Auburndale Historic District, Mr. Dudek, is here this evening. So if he wanted to speak and the committee wanted to hear what he had to say, that might help shed some light on the issue.
Sir, would you like to speak? You need to unmute. You're muted.
I think you can hear me now.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, I really don't feel I can speak for the full committee, but we were very concerned when we heard about the possibility of demolition, and we would find it very difficult. I am intrigued, and I think the commission would be intrigued if there is a possibility. I understand parking's difficult, but if there is a possibility by taking one building down and providing housing, I think that could be looked on favorably.
Okay, thank you very much. Go ahead, Attorney Lee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to respond to one of Councilor Malaki's questions with regards to who would be responsible for maintenance and upkeep of the building. That's kind of the question that's before the reuse committee tonight, in terms of it depends of what they're going to make available for sale or lease. And if another entity leases or owns the property, really lease is the only thing that's on the table. But if another entity leases the property and they're under our agreement with the city, responsible for the upkeep, it would be them. Otherwise, if we own it and no one else, no other entity is involved in the mix, then the city is going to be responsible for the upkeep.
Thank you. Thank you. Does that answer your question, Councilor Malaki? Yes. Okay. Councilor Getz, then Block.
Okay. This is actually a question for Attorney Lee. I had thought that we were bound in terms of the property being purchased with ARPA dollars, that we were not eligible to sell any of the land. Could you clarify that, please?
No, that's true. We can't dispose of it without going through a federal process of disposal that's very onerous. So that's why I amended what I said just a minute ago, and I said not sale or lease, just the opportunity to lease it. We would still have to own the fee interest in the property.
Okay.
But if that were, Attorney Lee, if that were the city, let's say Williams School, if we were to transfer some of the property to Williams School, that the city being the owner of the schools, that would not count as a sale. Is that?
No, it would not.
Okay. Counselor Block.
Thank you, Chair Danberg. Just comment on this question about demolition, which the JPG recommended as a path. It's my understanding that the Auburndale Historic District Commission did not want to deal in hypotheticals. And I think that was a phrase used perhaps by the chair at the meeting where a couple of members of the JPG presented briefly. Someone, I can't remember who, referred to the need to make a case. And that case to the Auburndale Historic District Commission, and that case might have to do with one aspect, which David Hedison referred to, which is a commitment to maintain and utilize the oldest and most important historic structure. It also might require a fiscal analysis to determine what the cost would be for all of the structures to be used and how they would be used. If they're used for housing, there's probably one set of costs. If they're being used for, let's say, school purposes, then there would be another, perhaps different set of costs. And all of that kind of analysis did not take place under the JPG sort of purview. The only significant analysis, and it was debated, as David referred to, was the affordable housing scenarios that is it Weston and Sampson or Sampson and Weston? I'm always mixing that up. But which that consulting firm did under contract with the city just to focus on that. So there's a lot of analysis that could be done in order to inform what the city might reasonably be able to do with it. And I think that's clearly one of the issues that this committee will have to grapple with. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Block. Counselor Getz.
Okay. So I am just a little bit curious because I'm sort of wondering, because I had read some of the public comment, and one resident, sorry, Darwin needs to go downstairs. That's who's whining in the background. But one of the recommendations was to actually physically move the Howard House and, have all of the buildings together. And I didn't know, in terms of our purview, whether or not we even in our final recommendation can actually do that. After the public hearing, make recommendations, and whether or not the mayor ultimately, in consultation with the planning department, finalizes it. I just didn't know to what extent we're able to, form our recommendation. Okay.
Do you have an answer to that?
Yeah, please.
I do, Madam Chair. So just to be clear, the City Council, not just the reuse committee, but the City Council as a whole, their ability and authority here is to make the recommendation that the property be available for sale or lease. Again, in this situation, lease, and to set the minimum lease price. They can make other recommendations such as relocating the building, historic preservation, whatever it might be, but those recommendations are just by resolution. They are not binding.
Okay, answer your question, Counselor Getz?
Thank you.
Good. Do we have any other, I see Counselor Block.
Um, I think this is an example of the kind of scenario that the JPG was not equipped to consider. They proposed the demolition so that the land could be used for open space or educational purposes, at least where the house on Hancock is located. But whether that could be moved to another parcel entirely within Auburndale, the Auburndale Historic District, or even perhaps outside the Historic District, or whether it would be reasonable to move it to another part of the existing parcel. Those are, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, those are perfectly plausible ideas, but somebody would have to do some research around them. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other questions or comments from the committee? Seeing none. So our task for tonight, according to Attorney Lee, will be to entertain a vote on a motion to waive the requirement that the public hearing be held within 60 days of the submission of the JPG report, that being today, and to set a public hearing for September. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Counselor Lipoff makes the motion. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions. That's 7-0 in favor. So, Mr. Heath, do you have any other comments or Ms. Kreitzer? Does anyone else have any other comments?
I don't. I think, I don't know whether the purview is to set up the public hearing tonight or to give the clerk the ability to set the date in September that works for the committee.
Yeah.
But I think that's what we're talking about, September?
Yes.
Okay.
I think the dates are the 4th, I wrote them down here someplace, the 4th, the 11th, and the 18th. What I will ask Cassidy Flynn to do is to poll the committee so that we'll have a sense of who can make what dates. And so if there is no other commentary, I think that's it for the evening. Thank you very much, everybody. Again, thank you very, very much, Mr. Hedison and the JPG. May I have a motion to adjourn? So, motion made by Counselor Getz. We are adjourned. Thank you, and we will see this committee in September. Take care.
Night.